I get this question a lot about, how to study Arabic language, which books to study, how to go about the whole thing. Uh, but this question itself, I usually see a good thing in it and also a little bit of problematic things. The good thing is that, of course, we're all trying to learn Arabic language, right? So that's what we want to know how to study. That's the positive thing. But the bad thing is usually what I'm afraid of is we just get caught up with this question: what books to study, how to study. Because what happens is someone says, study this book, we study for a few months or something, then we feel like it's not working. Then we look for another opinion. So it's like we get into this loop, just trying to find out which books to study instead of actually studying any particular book from the cover to cover, from the beginning to the end, right? You understand what I'm saying? So that's an issue, and this is not only with regards to Arabic language. This is same kind of question happens with any science. To be honest with you, someone wants to study fiqh. These are the questions that the scholars always get: which books to study? What do I study after that? What do I study first? The whole problem is that if we are trying to find what else book we can study instead of finishing one of the curriculum, that's the main problem that I feel we have. So that's the thing that I wanted to address. So for example, if you're studying with a teacher and he started a book, he chose a book for you, a curriculum for you, and then that's it. My opinion doesn't make any difference. My opinion is not important. You should truly genuinely follow what your teacher is teaching you. Okay, and you should follow through from the beginning to the end. Okay, so after that, you should be reviewing, and then when you're really done with that curriculum, that books, that series, that course, whatever you're doing, and then you can think about what's next, but not without mastering the one particular book or something that you're already studying. Okay, so this is something that I wanted to clear up. A second thing that I wanted to mention is when we say how to study Arabic language, this question is pretty broad because, as we know, in the language, we have many different components, right? So for any language, not only Arabic language, we have reading, okay, we have writing, we have speaking, and we have listening, right? So of course, when we combine all of them, that's when we say that we master a language, we know a language. First, okay, is it possible to learn all of them together? Yes, of course, that's the goal. That's what we want. We want to, master, we want to study, we want to learn all of these things together in the reading, writing, speaking, and listening. But if you're doing that, then there's the only thing I can think of that you're studying abroad in Egypt or somewhere else in in Arabic speaking country, or you are already enrolled in one of this Islamic institution like university, and then they will put you in Mahad where they will teach you Arabic. So these things, being taken care of, meaning you are studying abroad in Arabic speaking country. And if that's the case, then I'm pretty sure you're not sitting here and listening to this lecture. That would be the most ideal way of learning any language. You want to learn French, you should be visiting France. You want to learn Chinese, you should be in China. If you have this opportunity to go abroad and study Arabic language, that is the best way to do so, without a doubt. Okay. So now what about the rest of us, like who will be probably who are busy adult, we have to study and by ourselves and take a little bit help from teachers here and there. Okay, so this is for rest of us. So if we're in this category, then is it possible to tackle all of these things at once? It would be extremely difficult. Honestly, if we're not in Arabic speaking country, it will be extremely difficult to tackle all of these things at once, and especially your speaking and listening. These two things will be extremely difficult. Okay. And as you can see, if you look at these four components, you can see we can divide these things into further, like you have input and output. So you have the reading is input and the listening is input, right? And the writing is output and speaking is output. So in order to have a communication, because language is all about communications, you just need one from input and one from output. So for example, if you want to have a conversation with someone, if you know how to speak, and listen, then that's all you need. You don't need to worry about the reading and writing from communication perspective. But there's another way of interaction or communication, which is like, reading and writing. You're sending letters and somebody is sending you writing something and you're reading it and you're writing it back. So this is also possible. And it's also possible to have, a little bit of variation. For example, you might be very good at listening, but you're not good at speaking. So what you can do, you can listen to somebody say, Assalamu alaikum, kayf al-hal, and then you're understanding what he's saying, but you don't know how to speak. So you can write it down. So you still have a communication, okay? Meaning input and output. But if you don't have one from input and one from output, then you are looking at one-way communications, right? So why am I telling you this thing? Because initially we kind of have to go through, especially when we're studying alone, self-study, and with a little bit help with the teachers and books, whatnot. It would be extremely difficult for us to tackle everything at once. So we have to make some sacrifice and start somewhere. And the goal is, honestly, guys, the goal is that eventually you start, doesn't matter how we start, we want to have all of this component eventually, right? Another reason why maybe we don't even have to think about all of this component is, especially if our focus is one and only thing is the Quran. Okay, if this is all we're here for, so right away we can eliminate the writing and let's say speaking. I still want to keep the listening and reading. Why? Because we will be reading Quran and we'll be listening to the Quran in the prayer, Taraweeh and whatnot. Okay. So as you can see, we're trying to make it easy for us to get started, then slowly progress our way. From here, there's two main category I want to make is one is the conversation, another one's literacy. Okay. So we can focus on conversation or we can focus on literacy. Conversation is obviously speaking and listening. And by literacy, what I mean is reading and writing. Okay, so reading and writing and speaking and listening. And as you know, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was illiterate. So he was not, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was not able to read and write, but he was, of course, fluent and eloquent in Arabic language when it comes to conversation, conveying message and speaking and all these things. You understand? You can clearly see that there is a difference between these two. There are a lot of guys who goes to Arab countries to work. They pick up the language, the conversation they pick up very fast. I've seen when I go to Umrah, I see these guys, some of them from the Indian subcontinent country, they speak Arabic like the natives with the Ammiya, with the accent. But can they read and write? Of course not. The reason why I'm trying to focus making this division is because our goal would be here. We want to approach from the literacy perspective, not from the conversation perspective. And this is what I'm telling you. But if you go to some other teacher, their main goal will be the conversation. The first thing they will say that we need to be speaking. You have to speak first. So their focus would be here. I have no qualm with this. I have no problem with this. Honestly, especially for young people, I would definitely suggest that you start with the conversation. It's very good. But most of us trying to learn Arabic because of the Quran, or even if you're thinking about self-study, or you want to approach the Islamic text of 1400 years of this vast library that we have in Islamic text and sciences, then, honestly, this is the best place to start. And the goal is that eventually, somehow, we all come back here. And as you done with the literacy, you slowly studying the conversation, and somebody who started the conversation slowly going to the literacy, and then we have a complete Arabic language. You understand, guys? Makes sense? So how do we do this? Remember, our focusing is in here. So any books that I recommend, it would be heavily focused here. Once I'm done speaking about how to master this part, then inshallah, I will also tell you how then we can slowly get our conversation, which is, I'm not undermining, I'm not downplaying this. This is extremely important, but I think this is way, way more important than this. So here, it was long time ago. Like I wrote, a small post where I was actually going through some of the books and then a little bit about these books. So for example, we have the Madinah Books, right? And then we have the Bayna Yadayk book. And then we have, this is Al-Kitab, that's the one that I mentioned to you. And then you have the Gateway to Arabic series, and then you have Kitab al-Asasi. And this Kitab al-Asasi, this is not the same thing as what we are studying. This is a book series, and the one that we're studying has the same name, which is from the Quran University, right? And then you have Arabic Tutor. This is something. So I'll give you this link. You can go through them. I wrote a lot of things about the advantage and disadvantage of them.